Hey, well, welcome in, everybody. Glad you could make it for today's podcast that we're going live here. And if you notice, I set up a page this week, so I want to be able to archive these podcasts and have easy access for those who are joining us. So if you took time to come on in today, I want to say thank you for giving me a few minutes. Noon is a good time for me because at 1 o'clock I've got to go pick up my son, and he's in school right now. But thanks again for joining us today. Well, I've enjoyed this time that we've had. This is 3 weeks in a row we're doing our podcast, and one of the things that I've really enjoyed is being able to share a little bit of my story with you and our story of recovery. But one of the things that you always want to try to set a purpose or a goal in mind when you launch into something. And one of my purposes with this podcast, this Tears to Well podcast, really is to helping people find significance from their pain. A lot of times we won't get all the answers. My wife passed away in December of 2019. Really, there is no answer that you could give me that would really suffice or satisfy me. There's just no answer. One of the things as human beings that we do crave is significance, meaning. How can I bring meaning to what happened as opposed to just making it worthless or useless? And so one of the things I hope to do with this podcast is help you find a little bit of significance or meaning in your loss. But also one of the things that I hope to do is not only find meaning and significance, but help you find gain, how to use your pain, how to use your trauma, the recovery from that process to help others. And that's where we get the name Tears to Wells, because that's really what we want to do. Years ago, I mentioned to you, the Lord gave me that verse, Psalm 84:6. I was upset about some things that were happening in my life, literally shedding pools of tears. And the Lord kind of relayed to me that part of my life would be taking my tears and literally making a pool from them, a well from them, and having others drink from that well. And that's what we want to do here on Tears to Wells. And hopefully this will be a blessing to you. And again, we'll mention this at the end of the program. But if this podcast is a blessing to you, make sure to share it and definitely make sure to like the page so you're informed every time we do a video. Well, I am a big believer in the power of community in helping people recover from loss and trauma. I put grief under the category of loss, but I'm a big believer in community. Community can help us for many reasons, but one of the things that definitely community does, and to me this is kind of entry level to our problems and recovering for our problems, but community can help us defeat the problems of isolation, fear, anxiety, depression, and loneliness. Isn't that what's surrounding us right now? We're seeing just epidemic levels of anxiety, depression. Liquor sales are off the charts. We're going through a really, really difficult time. Well, is it any coincidence that we're also seeing unbelievable amounts of isolation? So one of the things that community can do for you is definitely help you with the feelings that you have and get of loneliness, depression, fear, and anxiety. And one of the things I want to remind you is if you're feeling those things, these are serious problems. And the first step is reaching out, getting out as hard as it is, getting out of your comfort zone and getting into community. But one of the things that I love about community is community, groups, people can really help us do the heavy lifting of recovering from profound wounds of trauma and loss. I love listening to podcasts, and I mentioned that on a talk I gave earlier in the week. And I try to listen to a lot of self-help and a lot of recovery kind of podcasts. The fact of the matter is most of us have enough resilience in us that we're going to recover from our trauma and we'll break through it. We'll find significance and it won't have any kind of long-term effects on us. But there's a few of us that our trauma is going to linger with us, and it's going to cause wounds that affect our performance in everyday life. It gives us some handicaps even in relationships. And so for those few of us that struggle with the ongoing effects of our childhood trauma or even adult trauma, teenage trauma, one of the great tools that we have to recover from these things is the power of community and so forth. Last week I got in trouble because I had an aunt from Weslaco, Texas that was watching it on the podcast, and I forgot to say hello, but my cousin is watching this morning. Fina. We call her Fina, and thank you for checking in, Fina. Please say hello to my tia, my aunt. But one of the things that how did I get to become such a big believer in community? Let me share that with you. I think I did in last week's podcast, and I'm getting old, so you'll bear with me, and I'll probably tell stories a couple times. But this is how I became a great believer in the power of community. I was dating my precious wife, my beautiful wife, and everybody that ever saw Karen, just one of the first things out of their mouth is, "She's so beautiful." And then they'd look at me and say, "How in the world did he land that girl?" Exactly. But I was always overwhelmed with Karen's beauty. She was just a knockout from our first date until the day she passed. Just a beautiful, beautiful woman, inside and out. But I was nervous to begin with, dating my wife. But because of childhood issues, childhood trauma, different things that had happened in my life, even as a teenager and adult, some different forms of mental and spiritual and verbal abuse in my life. One of the things that I began to do is really, really retract internally and not be as open and vulnerable as I should be. And you know as well as I do, if you're in a relationship, you've got to be vulnerable. You'll never be able to develop a close relationship with anybody without being vulnerable. Well, I just couldn't be vulnerable with Karen, and frankly, I had struggled a lot in my dating life and relationship life because of this. Well, Karen naturally, because of my lack of vulnerability, thought one of two things: either number one, this guy's just playing with me, he's not really interested, or number two, he's hiding something. There's something this guy's hiding, and neither one of those was correct. But because of her feelings about this, she started to get a little anxious. And on December 26, 2008, I always call it the day that'll live in infamy, my beautiful wife broke up with me the day after Christmas. Can you believe she did that? And I just went into a tailspin. I went into a depression. I knew that she was the love of my life, and I felt like I lost the best thing that I ever had, so that I wasn't getting much better after a few weeks. I wasn't recovering. I still was not feeling myself. And so one of the things that I did was I did a lot of introspection, and I prayed, and I said, now Lord, I said, this breakup is affecting me way too much. I made way too much of this one person in my life, and I need help to learn what's wrong. And through a series of events, God led me to a recovery group, a recovery group from hurts, hangups, and habits. And I landed in this group, and it was from day one, it was one of the most precious things. I came there a broken man. My heart was broken. I had come to a place where I was open to finding help. And so I started attending this recovery group, and I met some of the most wonderful, wonderful people, and just awesome people. And through that group, and through months of just going to this program and dealing with my hurts, my hangups, and being able to be vulnerable, the Lord did a miraculous work in me. As a matter of fact, when about 8 months after I'd broken up with my wife, we started talking again, and she realized this guy's different this time. Well, of course, I was healed from wounds. Well, what happened? What happened in that community? Let me give you a few things that happened in that community. How did this community help? Well, I was able to share my hurts, and people stayed. They didn't run. One of the ways the devil lies to us, and he gets us to isolate, is here's what he says. He tells us, first of all, our problem is unique to us. Nobody else has this problem. And so we think we're some kind of an alien. We're some type of a freak that has these thoughts or has these problems, or we think nobody else feels this way. Can I tell you something? That couldn't be further from the truth. We are all the same. We all have the same fears, the same hangups, the same disappointments, but the devil lies to us. And so he gets us to retreat and isolate, which only complicates the problem. But in community there, in that group, I found a group of people that I could share my hurts with, the most profound hurts and difficulties of my life. And here's what happened. They stayed, and they didn't run. And I realized that I'm not some monster. I'm not some freak. I'm a human being. And these people conveyed to me that I had worth and I had value. They listened to my story. And not only did they listen, but the love that these people gave in return validated my wounds. As these people loved on me, and these people validated my hurts, I began to realize I truly was hurt. What that person did to me was wrong. What happened in this area was wrong. Because sometimes we when we're wounded or when we go through difficult seasons of our life, we begin to look at ourselves and say, well, maybe I'm the problem. Well, maybe I wasn't such a bad person. They wouldn't have said that to me. Or maybe if I was a better Christian, they wouldn't have hit me. Or maybe you follow what I'm saying? So we start to blame ourselves. And in community, what begins to happen is people love on us. They begin to validate our experience, and we begin to realize, first of all, what happened really happened. And secondly, it was hurtful. It was wrong. And so that's another powerful thing. So what else happened in that community? Not only did the love that they give me validate my wounds, but their love validated me as a person. I had worth. Probably one of the most tragic things about trauma, not necessarily grief as much as trauma, with abuse and abandonment and even neglect, it just chips away at your self-esteem. And I hate that. I mean, we're so good as humans to put on this face that I'm good, I'm okay, I'm somebody. But the fact of the matter is, so many of us are walking around wounded. Our self-esteem is in shambles. We think, now we fake it. We're like pit bulls, when somebody gets close to us, we growl, but deep down, we don't feel good about ourselves. And a lot of that stems from our trauma and our loss as children and adults, and even as middle-aged people. Trauma is no respecter of persons. But in community, these people began to validate me and help me understand I had worth as a person. That because I was abused, because I was hit, because I was verbally insulted and put down, and many different other forms of abuse, but we'll just leave it at that. But this group helped validate me and understand I had worth. Then finally, secrets lost their power. One of the things that I heard one time, and it just really resonated with me, a pastor said, secrets grow in secret. Or I'm sorry, a sickness grows in secret. And a lot of times, a lot of us have things that happen within our families, things that happen to us, circumstances that we hold in secret, and that those secrets are toxic. They in many ways they affect us physically. A lot of times we have pain and we have pain and all kinds of medical issues because of the secrets that we're holding on to that are causing bitterness and all kinds of craziness in us. But one of the things that a group does, it's a place where we can share some of those secrets. And as we share those secrets, they're no longer a secret, and we become free from these hurts. So I'm a big believer in the power of community and in your recovery from healing, from loss, from grief, loss, and trauma. So let me give you some insights today in our program about choosing a community. Choosing a place. Where am I going to go? What group of people am I going to surround myself with to help me through this difficult season? You need a group. You need people around you to help you through. So let me just give you some insights that I learned over the years on choosing a community, choosing a group. You can't do this alone. First of all, you have to choose a place where you can be vulnerable. That's going to take some time. You may go to some type of Reformers Unanimous or Celebrate Recovery, or you may go to some type of AA meeting or one of these meetings where there's support and there's groups and there's people to help you along the way. But it may take a while for you to get vulnerable. Like I said, a lot of us just we're so scared. We're big adults and we have mean faces, but inside we're just fraidy cats. We're afraid to be vulnerable with others because we've been hurt. And other times when, we learned as a young person, sometimes when you're vulnerable, you get hurt. And so we've got to deprogram ourselves from that. But you need a place where you can be vulnerable. So if you're going to be vulnerable, here's the kind of people that need to be in that group. First of all, you need to look for people who are authentic, that are genuine. I love genuine people. Oh, I love genuine people. I love people who just say what's on their mind. They're not pretentious. They're just real. And it's sad when people come to you and say, I really, really like you because you're real. As if it's a scarce commodity these days. It shouldn't be. There should be an abundance of real people. But the group that you're looking for needs to be authentic. It needs to be real people. Secondly, they need to be loving and forgiving people. Loving and forgiving people. People filled with compassion and empathy. Because when you're recovering from grief and loss and trauma, one of the things that you need the most is people who love you, are forgiving of your mistakes. When you lose your temper or you fly off the handle, they don't look the other way as if it doesn't happen. No, they saw it, but they forgive you and they understand where this is coming from. People who are loving and forgiving. People who are patient and tolerant. I remember one of the first group meetings I went to, and it was just powerful. As I sat in this meeting, I remember how some of the men in that group just were talking freely about some of their deepest sins that they had committed and different things that they had done. And I never saw amongst those men in that group a rolling of the eyes like, whoa. I never saw even a look of I can't believe they would do that. It was a very patient and tolerant group. And then also you want to look for a group that's happy. People who are happy. I wrote this down, authentic, loving and forgiving, patient and tolerant, happy. That pretty much identifies broken people. You want to find a meeting where there's some broken people and are there to support one another and help each other. And not just broken people, but forgiven people. Forgiven people are the happiest people in the world. And I just want to say that to you before we go on. If you've accepted Jesus Christ as your Savior, even if you haven't, God's mercy is available to you and you can be forgiven today if you want. And you can be freed from that. But broken people and forgiven people are the happiest people in the world. That's who you want to surround yourself with as you're recovering from loss and from trauma. There's a second factor as we're choosing a place, a community to help us recover from our hurts and our hangups, and that's a place where you can be accountable. A place where you can be accountable. And what I mean by that is a place that has a program. I have right here. I keep it next to me. I'll be there tonight. But it's a group called Grief Share, and I love this group. I love this group for many reasons. There's authentic people there. There's broken people there. There's forgiving and loving people there, and they've helped me through my grief. But I love this program because there's some accountability there. There's a workbook there. Tonight, we're going to go and they're going to ask me if I did the 4 days or 5 days of lessons that come with this. And so I'll be asked tonight. If anybody's watching from that group, I haven't done them all, but I will do them this afternoon. But you need some accountability, some organized way of accountability. We're talking about workbooks and material, not just workbooks and material, but perhaps a sponsor or a mentor, somebody who's there, who's going to hold you accountable to working through your hurts, working through your hangups, working through your grief, working through your loss, working through your trauma. And you would be shocked at just how powerful this is. There's a third aspect about choosing community. Not only do we choose a place where we can be vulnerable, not only a place where we can be accountable, but now to us, some instructions to us: be intentional and consistent. Be intentional and consistent. Can I tell you something? No group's going to come find you. You've got to go looking for a group. That means you've got to get online today and figure out what's the best group to help you with the problem you're struggling with. What's the best community? Perhaps it's just getting back in church. That's going to be the best place to start. Perhaps it's going to be getting back in Sunday school, a small group of people that can help you get back on track. Perhaps it's a recovery group. It's a Celebrate Recovery. It's a Reformers Unanimous. It's a AA meeting, something. But you're going to have to be intentional about it. No group's going to come find you. You've got to be intentional about finding it. Work until you find a group that works for you. You may show up at a group and just realize these people aren't for me. Well, there's more than one group. There's more than one a family that'll help you get through your crisis and help you get through. So you've got to work until you find a group that works for you. Not only that, commit to one cycle of the program. This grief share that I'm in, I believe, lasts 12 weeks. I committed to at least 12 weeks to go for 12 weeks, listen to what they have to say, grow through the program. And I went through one cycle already, and this is actually my second one in that group. And then finally, I want to say, as far as being intentional and consistent, no excuses, just go. Every Friday when that group meets, there's going to be an excuse not to go. Every Tuesday night when that group meets, there will be a good excuse. No excuses, just go. And the reason I'm encouraging you, and the reason why I'm pushing you towards this, is because I know there's great power in community. Another thing about choosing a community, number 4, find a place that's spiritual. If you have to look for a group, a community to kind of help you through your loss and trauma, I really suggest that you find a group that's spiritual, something that's spiritual based, and not necessarily something that's just a program maybe through a hospital, which is not bad. But if you have your choice between a secular group and a spiritual group, I'll take spiritual all day long. I'll take spiritual all day long because most of the community we need can be found right around believers. Most of the things, the resources we need, the help we need, the encouragement we need, but not just that. If the Bible tells us that the Spirit gives life, and I know that. I find that spiritual people are full of life and full of happiness, and that's really what we want in our recovery process. If you're not a believer today, I'd still choose a group that emphasizes spirituality. You'll find that there's people there who love you, that have found healing through Jesus Christ, and I believe with all my heart that you can find help as well. And then finally, when looking for a group to aid you in recovering from loss and trauma, 5, find a group where there is interdependence as opposed to codependence. Interdependence as opposed to codependence. You know, when we're hurt deeply and we're in anguish and we're crying out for help, the sad part about it is many times we're looking for saviors. And I want to tell you something, friend. There's only one Savior, capital S, and that's Jesus Christ. Here on earth, nobody will be our Savior. There's nobody that we can look to as our spiritual Savior. There's only one. And when we are sick from our trauma, when we are sick from our hurting, we're looking for somebody to save us. And I want to say, be careful of groups that offer you this salvation. You want to find people where you add value, they add value. It's interdependence. You're not looking to that group as your ultimate salvation. They're not looking to you as, without you, we can't go forward. You know, be careful of people who say, we need you. Be careful of that. No, the fact of the matter is we need God, but we need each other. We need each other. And so be careful of falling into the trap of getting into codependent relationships where you believe you can't live without them, or they come across as they can't live without you. A good relationship is give and take. A good relationship is interdependence. If we come to a place where we say, I can't live without this group, we may have become involved in something that's unhealthy. And so you never want to get involved with a group that comes across as, without us, you're nothing. Without us, you'll lose everything. You'll go back to where you were. You want to be careful of that. Hey, well, just my thoughts. One last thought before I go. And this is a powerful statement that I heard in the last group that I was in, the last meeting that I was in my grief share meeting. And it was such a powerful statement. I want to share that with you before I go. It's a statement I believe was made by H. Norman Wright. And here it goes. Good things happen in community, but not everything. And so I want to challenge you. I'm going to repeat that again. Good things happen in community, but not everything. I want to challenge you today to realize that yes, we're looking for help. Yes, we're looking for people to help us through. But there are some things that only happen in private by ourselves. We can't put too much weight on community. Some parts of loss and trauma have to be grieved alone with God. And some parts of your hurts and your hangups are going to have to be dealt with alone with God and poured out before God. And only God will be able to bring the healing that you need. And then finally, some parts of loss and trauma have to be worked through on our own. Hey, there's just some lessons you're not going to learn in the company of strangers. There's just some lessons that you're going to learn on your own. And that's it. But community is a wonderful gift. I have found that through community, the Lord has helped me heal. Like I mentioned to you, one of the most powerful things that happen in community is this ability to be vulnerable. I thank God for that gift. It was a gift that really helped me to land my wife, and what a great relationship we had. And it was through the powerful healing of a group. So I want to encourage you today. I don't know where you're at. Maybe you're still wrestling and you battle with anxiety, maybe depression. Maybe you're still struggling with grief and you just can't seem to beat it. I encourage you to look at this powerful tool that God has given us, the power of community. You will not find all of the help you need in community, but you will find a powerful tool that'll help you make gains in your recovery, and it'll help you come to a place where you can take your tears and make them a well. Isn't that what we want? We want to take the hurts of life, the tears that we've shed, and we want to turn around and make them a well for others. And I hope that's what we did today through the program. So thanks for joining me. I had a great time today, and I want to thank those who made an effort to join me live. I know several will listen to this video after it's posted, but thanks for checking in. See, Josh checked in today. Josh was a little boy that used to ride my bus in Chicago, and I appreciate him checking in. I had the wonderful privilege of marrying him and his wife, Sarah, and that meant a lot to me. So thanks for joining me. Hey, if this video and this podcast helped you today, do me a favor. Would you like the video, first of all? And then secondly, would you consider sharing it with somebody, maybe through a message, through Messenger? Send them a message, say, hey, this spoke to me and helped me. Maybe it'll help you. So until next week, I'll be back here at the same time next Thursday, right at noon. It's the time that works for me. But let's make sure to take our tears and make them a well. God bless you today. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week.